This video will be based on a talk I gave at International Conference on Globalistics in 2019 at Moscow State University in Moscow, Russia. It was later published in this Journal of Globalization Studies by Moscow State University in 2020. The title of this paper is Climate Change, Malthusian Catastrophe, and a Global Rule of Law. I will read simply from the abstract and introduction of that paper. This paper will not directly engage the scientific question of global warming. Instead, it will discuss the present-day idea of global warming as a successor to the 19th century idea of overpopulation, and the significance of both these questions when seen as legal issues. This paper begins by discussing a very famous book by Thomas Malthus, his essay on population, first published in 1798. In that book, Malthus explains how the world food supply will inevitably be overtaken by the increase of human population, and how the human birth rate must necessarily be restrained by strict punitive legal measures. But there is another dimension to the book that is usually overlooked. In fact, Malthus wrote his essay in answer to an earlier work by the French author Condorcet. That was entitled Progress of the Human Spirit and published in Paris in 1795. The book by Condorcet is often referred to as the most important summation of the values of the Enlightenment, with its great confidence in human potential to advance and develop by a process of cultivation and learning. It is this optimism that brings to light the underlying fundamental premise of each work and their different appraisals of human nature represented by the two authors, Condorcet and Malthus. It also points up their legal significance for the global age. Malthus was actually a minister in the Anglican Church, and his views were permeated by the old Puritan idea of human nature as being rapacious and malicious, according to the doctrine of utter depravity. This important difference between the two men, Condorcet and Malthus, as it pertains to the modern question of global warming, is not merely the difference between an approach of education and enlightenment on one side versus an approach of juridic coercion on the other. Instead, it has more to do with different certainties of outcome between their two approaches. In fact, whatever the result in human population or in global warming, there are absolutely predictable results from the two approaches, what might be called cultivation or coercion. The approach of Condorcet, when applied to the problem of global warming, may or may not resolve that issue, but it would very likely have the effect of raising the level of human knowledge and understanding in the world. It would bring an elevation in the patterns of human behavior generally. Conversely, the approach of Malthus, when applied to mitigate the problems of climate and environment by coercive means, may or may not resolve the climate crisis, but it would assuredly result in more legal rules, more regulation, and more adjudicative authority directing the affairs of global humanity.